On a frosty December morning in 1995, the residents of Bristolville, Ohio, awoke to a mystery that would haunt the small town for decades. The Markley home, once a sanctuary of predictable routine and familial warmth, stood as a silent testament to a disappearance that defied explanation. Unlocked doors, a still-brewing coffee pot, and a series of perplexing details hinted at a hurried exit, leaving behind more questions than answers. John J. Markley Jr. and Shelly Applequist, bound in matrimony on November 30th, 1979, had built their life on shared dreams and hard work. John, an independent truck driver, and Shelly, a devoted stay-at-home mother, raised 5 children: Ruthie, Stacy, Bonnie, Crystal, and Johnny, in the rural embrace of Bristol. Their lives, once marked by simple routines and steadfast love, had recently been battered by tragedy. Just days before the eerie morning, John's twin sister, Bonnie, had succumbed to breast cancer, a loss that left John not only shattered but burning with a fury he struggled to contain. On December 15th, the day began like any other. The family gathered for breakfast, and the children, aged between 8 and 15, set off for school, leaving behind a home that would soon betray its familiar comforts. Later that afternoon, the children returned to find the house inexplicably abandoned. The front door stood ajar, and there were no signs of forced entry. Shelley's habitual note explaining her brief absence was nowhere to be seen. Instead, an unsettling tableau awaited them, the coffee pot still emitting the aroma of early morning brew, and John's watch, usually a constant companion, left forgotten on a shelf above the stove. A closer inspection revealed more oddities. Shelly, known to be a pack-a-day smoker, had not taken her cigarettes or lighter. Her purse, as always, rested where she had left it. Even more jarring was the open gun cabinet upstairs, a cabinet John always ensured was securely locked. A small safe in their bedroom had its contents of crucial documents, including birth certificates, scattered as if by someone in desperate search. The disappearance was not limited to personal items. In the garage, the tarps that typically shielded John, meticulously maintained 1978 Corvette, were nowhere to be found, and the family's checkbook had vanished without a trace. The children, overwhelmed by confusion and dread, sought refuge with their aunt and uncle. Little did they know that their parents would never again be seen or heard from. The mystery deepened when just 2 days prior to their disappearance, John had been reeling from the loss of his beloved twin sister Bonnie, a loss he had fought against with all his might by raising funds for experimental treatments in Mexico. His grief had turned to anger, and although his sister Linda recalled him seeming fine the day after Bonnie's death, his bitter emotions were impossible to ignore. When John and Shelley failed to attend Bonnie's funeral the following day, the absence was a glaring anomaly. Linda and her husband, Thomas Yeager, were quick to recognize that something was horribly amiss. They reported the couple missing, and soon a desperate search involving roughly 100 locals covering hundreds of acres was underway. Yet no clue emerged from the surrounding countryside. The mystery took a tangible turn when the family's red and silver 1990 Chevrolet pickup truck was discovered, locked in an abandoned state at a hardware store parking lot on Elm Road, 10 miles from their home. Covered in mud, a stark contrast to John's scrupulous care, the truck bore the marks of off-road travel. Inside, the phone that once connected the family to their loved ones lay forgotten, and the missing tarps were found neatly tucked in the truck's bed. This discovery led investigators to suspect that the vehicle had been driven under duress, possibly by a stranger whose identity remained obscure. Adding to the enigma was a bank withdrawal on the very day of the disappearance. A 1,000 check signed by Shelley had been cashed at a bank, one branch in Bloomfield, Ohio, at 10:36 a.m., a transaction that left the couple's bank account with a meager $865. The bank teller recalled seeing an unfamiliar male in the pickups company at the drive-thru, but his face was a blur of anonymity, leaving investigators with an elusive potential lead. The plot further thickened with the involvement of Stephen Durst, a former employee of John's, who boldly contacted the family claiming he was holding the couple captive and demanding a ransom that varied between $10,000 and $100,000. Durst's impromptu extortion attempt ended in a dramatic confrontation at a gas station, where he was intercepted and arrested after receiving nothing more than a bag of rags instead of the demanded money. Although his polygraph raised suspicions, with several responses marked as deceptive, the authorities ultimately dismissed him as more of a malignant opportunist than the mastermind behind the disappearance. Despite his conviction for extortion and a prison sentence that ranged from 4 to 10 years, Durst's cryptic insinuations of a broader extortion network kept his potential link to the case alive in the minds of investigators, particularly as the first anniversary of the disappearance loomed. In the wake of the vanishing of John and Shelly, the Markley children were forced to confront a world suddenly stripped of parental guidance. Their Aunt Linda and Uncle Thomas, having rushed up from North Carolina for Bonnie's funeral, vowed to take in the children, determined to preserve their home and shield them from further harm. Interviews on popular television shows and appearances on programs like Unsolved Mysteries thrust the family into the public eye, forcing the children, especially 19-year-old Stacy and 8-year-old Johnny, to navigate a childhood marred by loss and unyielding media scrutiny. For the Markley children, the disappearance was not just a news headline, but a harrowing transformation of their lives. Ruthie, who later became a mother herself, recounted the moment she resolved to adopt a cold, unyielding demeanor as a means of survival. Young Johnny's heartfelt wish for Mom and Dad on his Christmas list echoed the silent sorrow of a family left in limbo. The case, with its myriad twists and puzzling inconsistencies, continued to defy resolution. Despite exhaustive searches by police, airborne scans, and dives into nearby lakes and waterways, such as Nelson Ledge's Quarry, Mosquito Lake, and Lake Milton, the fate of John and Shelly remained shrouded in darkness. In 2015, a glimmer of potential progress emerged when Trumbull County Sheriff Tom Altier announced new leads, though he was careful to emphasize that the investigation was still mired in uncertainty. Another curious development occurred in 2020 when authorities linked a feloniously charged Milton Kurtzman to a broader cold case investigation. However, any connection to the Markleys was left frustratingly ambiguous. Throughout it all, the prevailing sentiment among those who knew John and Shelly was one of disbelief. They were loving, protective parents, individuals who would never willingly abandon their children or let grief compel them into such drastic measures. Sheriff Tom Altier, though his gut leaned towards the possibility that the couple might have perished, acknowledged the lack of concrete evidence to conclusively determine their fate. Today, the unanswered questions of that cold December morning remain a somber reminder of the fragility of certainty. The Markley case, marked by sudden departures, mysterious bank withdrawals, and an elusive stranger, continues to be a puzzle, a piece of local history that invites both speculation and sorrow. The legacy of John and Shelly Markley lives on in the enduring hope of their children, the persistent investigations of law enforcement, and the whispered theories that echo through the annals of Bristolville. Their story, forever suspended between tragedy and enigma, challenges the boundaries of understanding, leaving behind a trail of questions that even after decades remain as unresolved as the fateful day they disappeared.